Assalamualaikum everyone, with me Ashikin, with a metric 286400, and I am one of International Affairs.
My name is Alia Maisarah binti Muzaki. My number metric is 294030. I am from International Affairs students.
Today, me and my partner going to talk about one of interesting topic is about the differences between phobia and trauma. Let's get started. Before I let my beautiful partner talk about trauma, let me explain about the definition of phobia. Did you know that what is phobia? Phobia is an overwhelming and debilitating fear of an object, place, situation, and feeling or animal. A phobia is a strong, sudden, and obsessive fear of a particular item or encounter. The result of fear may result in extreme anxiety and even a panic attack. Individuals who are conscious of their phobia usually try to avoid potentially stressful situations. For example, phobia also can originate with various dimensions, such as biological, psychological, social, and social culture. We are moving on to the next. Is about the types of phobia. Can be divided into a few things. This is due to many human beings have things that petrify or cause them to have a nervous reaction to certain insects, places, or even objects. This terrifying reaction causes people to have a fear that makes it unstartable for humans to suppress it. As a result, this is called a phobia that have an effect on human. Critics have identified phobia into three different categories: acrophobia, social phobia, and specific phobia. Acrophobia is a type of anxiety disorder in which one fears and avoids places or situations that might cause one to panic and feel trapped, helpless, or embarrassed. This is a fear that causes people to feel that they are not able to flee or ask for help when they feel their anxiety is escalating. People tend to develop this phobia when they feel like they have gotten this phobia in the past and they try to avoid it by not going to the same place that caused the intense fear. Another common phobia is social phobia, but it is also known as anxiety disorder. This is notable as the third major mental health issue. Social phobia is intense anxiety or fear of being judged, negatively evaluated from the performance situation. The evidence shows that some people tend to develop the phobia due to their traumatic experience in the past where they had to speak in front of public. Also, people who grow up being criticized or disapproved by their surroundings will most likely develop. Lastly is about specific phobia. That is described as a concern or fear about certain situation, activity, and many specific phobias tend to be developed as a result of a negative impact or in a traumatic experience. People with specific phobia are often well aware that their fears are exaggerated or irrational. So how actually the way that you can help yourself, especially you have a phobia? There have a few of tips and ways to decrease your phobia level. For example, cognitive behavioral therapy, or known as CBT. CBT is a type of counseling that can help you manage your problems by changing the way you think and behave. It can be used to develop practical ways of dealing with phobia. CBT treatment process that often used to treat simple phobia involves graded exposure. This is known as desensitization or exposure therapy. Next is about partnering up. Social support plays an important role in physical and mental health, including the process of overcoming phobia. When going through the desensitization or fear-related step, it can be helpful to talk with friends and family about it. They can be helped by listening, encouraging, celebrating when each goal has been achieved. If a family member has phobia as well, it can be helpful. It doesn't have to be the same phobia. To sum up, we can say that phobia and trauma is totally a different things. We can see from the definition of very aspect, both thing is totally different. So now, if especially for those who have trauma and phobia, don't worry, that thing is gonna be better if you go and seek for medication and help. And for those who think that having a trauma and phobia can make you be more down, it's okay because everyone have their own weakness. So make it as a strength also. Don't worry and just keep moving on, because life sometimes is really hard, but it depends on ourselves, especially on how we try our best to find the best in our future.
And some form of trauma, whether it's been big or small, and sometimes this trauma sticks around for longer than we expect, leading to unhealed trauma. Depending on the types of situation you have experienced, trauma can be categorized into 5 different types. The first type of trauma is big trauma. Big trauma is a single traumatic events that have long-lasting impacts of an individual. These are typically associated with post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. People who have big trauma might typically experience nightmares or flashbacks, intrusive thought, and negative feelings. The second one is small trauma. Small trauma comes from traumatic events that result from personal events. It generally consists of all other trauma that is not covered by big trauma. Despite its name, small trauma can still disrupt your life, especially it goes unprocessed. Example of small trauma include getting fired from a job, divorce, or continuous academic, financial, or personal stress. The third one is acute trauma. Acute trauma refers to a trauma that occurs from a single incident of trauma that could be categorized as a small trauma or big trauma depending on the person and situation. As an example, with witnessing an act of violence. So, how to deal with trauma? There are 4 ways to deal with trauma. The first one is validate your experience and reaction. People who have experienced trauma need to realize that although this is a new feeling for them, it is normal for those who have also experienced trauma. Normalizing these thoughts and feeling is extremely important. It helps people to realize they are going through something that many other people have gone through and that they are not alone. The second one is seek support from people you trust. You may feel the need to be alone after you experience a traumatic event. While it's important to have your space, consider also having supportive people nearby to help you. If you notice that you are still avoiding others or isolating yourself a few weeks, you may want to consider seeking help from a therapist or counselor. The third one is give yourself a break. Trauma can take a toll on your mind and body. It is often best to slow down and give yourself as much of a break as you can. Trauma is not something that can be worked through according to a specific timeline. Everyone heals differently, and this should always be kept in mind. That means you should try to avoid and comparing with other people who seem to have healed more quickly, and avoid comparing other people's reactions to trauma with your own. And lastly, reach out for professional help if necessary. Consider reaching out for help from a doctor or therapist for symptoms that occur. Keeping a support system of trusted family, friends, and trained mental health professionals can ensure that there are people around you when you need them. The difference between trauma and phobia. As now, the difference between trauma and phobia is that trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, rape, or natural disaster, while phobia is an irrational or obsessive fear or anxiety that usually are of or about something particular situation. In my conclusion, many people struggle with the symptoms of unhealed trauma, and it affects the life of people in different ways. The effect can be devastating, but they do not have to ruin someone's life. You are more than what's happened to you, and with other proper treatment, support, and lifestyle changes, a person living with unhealed trauma can lead a fulfilling life. If you recognize yourself, please be encouraged to speak with a trained professional and take care of yourself. We want you to be safe and your mental health matters. Please don't be afraid to reach out to an online community, family members, or a qualified professional if it becomes too much for you. That's all from me. Thank you.